Section 11 of Stanton White, A Romance of the New South, by Asa Zadel Hall. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Hunting the Alligator. Morn broke fair and cloudless. The mockingbirds waked the sun with their glad madrigals. From the topmost boughs of many a tree they poured a stream of music until all the air was thrilling with sweet melody. Cardinals, jays, and red-winged blackbirds thronged the tree-tops and shook the dew from many a leafy shrub. The calm of a restful night was upon us. We knew not what was forthcoming, but all nature was so glorious that no shadow fell upon our mental horizon. I began to whistle and then to sing a love-ditty with such an astounding earnestness that Stanton hushed me lest my sonorous vibrations should waken the other occupants of the house. For it was yet early, and Stanton recognized my musical limitations. Our precautions, however, were unnecessary, for a moment later the breakfast bell rang. White and I were more prompt than Mr. Edson in appearing at the breakfast table. The latter excused his tardiness by stating that he had not heard the bell. He looked worn and jaded, as if he had passed a restless night. He ate little and failed to respond to any of the small talk of the table. "Mr. Edson," said our host when we were again in the library, "it is very fortunate that you young gentlemen came just at this time. If it suits your convenience, you can supply a much-felt need in our household. It is natural that I should desire for my children the best of schooling, but you know what these Florida schools are. I once heard a noted educator state that the Florida children run with their teacher for 5 months and with the calves for 7 months, and they unlearn more while with the calves for 7 months than they learn in the 5 months with the teacher. It has therefore come to pass that wealthier residents of the state send their children to private schools, and instead of trying to bring the public schools up to the standard of their requirements, they relegate the public schools to those who are too poverty-stricken to afford anything different, or too illiterate and indifferent to desire anything better. Wishing to hold myself aloof from patronizing either the public or private schools in their present condition, I myself have tutored my children. I realize, however, that many things have changed since I went to college. The girls should have better training than that which their father can give them. Accordingly, if they desire it, I mean to send them to some first-class Northern college. Before they can enter such an institution, it will be necessary to bring their knowledge up to date, in the accomplishment of which I shall be most happy to have your assistance. In the meantime, the estate is before you. Choose your own pastimes and haunts. Anything you see is yours. For today, I propose an alligator hunt. I know of a swamp about 4 miles from here where I think we can find some gators. I'll have Uncle Boston hitch the horse to the spring wagon, and we'll be off before the sun is hot." "Papa, can I go?" Thus said the fair-haired boy who had been listening intently until now. "Why, I don't know. If Mr. White and Mr. Edson think that you won't be in the way—" "Certainly. Let 'em go," said Stanton quickly. "It's not so long since I was a boy." Allen looked his gratitude. The arrangements for the hunt were soon perfected. An hour's ride along a deep sanded road brought us to a swamp surrounded by water oaks. The approach to the swamp was difficult because of the deep slime, but the boat was soon launched by Uncle Boston, who waded deep into the slime and paved the way for those who followed by throwing down some loose boards. Then he went to stay with the horse while the rest of us embarked. Around and around the swamp we went, prodding everywhere in the soft ooze with our long-handled spears. The swamp was nearly traversed, and no excitement rewarded us. I was becoming skeptical as to the presence of alligators in the swamp, when I felt my spear graze something hard and rough. Immediately there was a quick movement in the water, and the chase had begun. Ripples showed Stanton where to guide the boat, while Mr. Edson and I thrust here and there with our spears. More swiftly we went, the gator swimming so smoothly that its position was judged with the utmost difficulty. "I hit him! I hit him! I've got him foul!" cried Mr. Edson excitedly. The boat quivers as if agitated by an earthquake. The water boils and rises in great waves. No need for oars now. Mr. Edson holds to his spear as if for dear life. The boat whirls and shoots to the other end of the pool as if traversing a race course. Then, turning abruptly, it flashes back again. The terrific speed suddenly slackens. "Look out for him! He's torn loose!" shouts Mr. Edson. The words are scarcely uttered when the head of the infuriated reptile appears at the side of the boat, dangerously near to Allen. The boy seizes an oar, and before anyone realizes the danger, he coolly aims a blow at the brute's head. A crash. The oar is wrenched from his grasp with such violence as to drag him over the side of the boat. Mr. Edson tries to rescue his boy, but too late. Sharp teeth crunch the lad's shoulder. With a never-to-be-forgotten look of terror, Allen struggles with his foe. A flash from Stanton's rifle, and the water is dyed with blood. Alligator and boy disappear from view. Mr. Edson and I sat for an instant, as if paralyzed. Not so Stanton. His jaw was firmly set. His eyes were riveted upon the spot where the boy sank. Flinging his rifle aside, he tore off his coat and grasped his hunting knife in his teeth. "Hold!" thundered Mr. Edson, detecting White's purpose. Stanton heeded him not. A sunny head appeared above the surface a little in front of the boat. Quick as thought, Stanton changed the direction of his leap, and a moment later both Stanton and the boy were safe within the boat. At that moment I noticed that no less than 5 pairs of eyes were watching us from the water. "Quick!" said Mr. Edson, rousing himself from the contemplation of the pale face and motionless form. "Quick, or they'll overturn the boat!" I seized the remaining oar, and Stanton assisted with the butt of his rifle, so that without delay we were ashore. The blood was oozing from a dozen cruel teeth marks in the lad's shoulder when we laid him white and limp in the shade of a tree beside the swamp, while Uncle Boston was dispatched on horseback for the nearest doctor, 3 miles distant. Stanton at once gave attention to the boy. I stood and watched, not knowing what else to do. There appeared no flutter of the breath to reassure us. The father was busy chafing the limbs and rolling the boy from side to side. Putting the father gently aside, with a reassuring, "I'll bring him to if there is any life in him," Stanton quickly turned the lad upon his face, and placing one hand beneath the pale forehead, with the other he brought the tongue forward and thus freed the mouth of a quantity of muddy water. Then, turning him upon his back again, he tore open the clothing around the lad's neck. As the father resumed chafing the cold limbs, Stanton brought the arms quickly along the ground to the shoulder level. The bone of the injured arm grated in its socket. Stanton examined the shoulder narrowly. "Nasty fracture of the acromion," he muttered beneath his breath. "However, we shall have to keep on moving the arms at the risk of complications." 15 minutes gone. The eyes looked staring. No movement of eyelids, no flutter of breath. The lines of anxiety deepened in the father's face. Neither man relaxed his efforts. 20 minutes gone. A forlorn hope seemed to vanish into despair for the father. Wearied by his exertions, he buried his head in his hands dejectedly. He was roused by Stanton bidding him wrap the body in his own coat, and in as many others as he could find. Still the rhythmical movement of the arms intermitting with pressure upon the chest. "Bring cold water from the jug in the wagon, and dash it in his face," said Stanton to me, not relaxing his efforts. "Then dry his face briskly," he added, as I hastened to obey. 25 minutes gone, and still no sign of life. The rhythmical movement was slightly increased in rapidity. Stanton now added to his other restorative efforts, blowing his own breath into the lad's mouth as he raised the arms. A slight quivering of the nostrils, a convulsive gasp, a faint shade of color mounted to the marble cheek, and thence to the forehead. Though at first intermittent and weak, as the efforts of the watchers were continued, the breathing became more steady, the blue eyes opened for an instant, and the pallid lips murmured, "Papa?" Then, as if exhausted, he sank into a calm sleep from which he was not awakened until the doctor arrived. "Well, well, Edson," said the doctor, throwing himself from his foaming steed. "I feared by what Uncle Boston told me that the boy would be beyond reach when I arrived. Nasty place, these swamps, for anyone to get hurt. So much poison mixed up with the water and air that any accident is likely to be followed by a long spell of fever. Whew! Rather bad fracture of the acromion, and the body of the scapula much comminuted." "So Mr. White here seemed to observe," said Mr. Edson gravely. Dr. MacPhail scanned Stanton narrowly. "You resuscitated him?" "Yes," said Stanton, and then added apologetically, "I worked for a year as orderly in a Philadelphia hospital." "You've saved his life," said the doctor admiringly. Mr. Edson seemed to grow 10 years younger in that moment. End of Section 11. Read by James K. White, Chula Vista.